Tonight on Nightline, how safe is your child? As the search goes on for this San Diego teenager and a convicted pedophile is held by police, we join the never-ending patrol to stop sex offenders before they strike again.
From the global resources of ABC News, with Terry Moran, Martin Bashir, and Cynthia McFadden in New York City, this is Nightline, March 1st, 2010.
Good evening. Even among fellow criminals, pedophiles are considered so vile, they often become the targets of violence. Tonight, John Albert Gardner, a convicted sex offender, is being held on suspicion of rape and murder following the disappearance of San Diego High School senior Chelsea King. Authorities say that Gardner, who may be tied to other attacks and is uncooperative, could be charged as early as tomorrow. This dark case sheds new light on the huge challenge of monitoring sex offenders, a task rendered almost impossible by the sheer scale of the problem. The picturesque county of Santa Clara, at the southern end of San Francisco Bay, is home to Silicon Valley and 3,000 sex offenders.
Okay, get with your team leaders, figure out your strategies, and let's go.
Policing them is in the hands of these 25 law enforcement officers.
So we're going to use 2 vehicles. I'll take 3. I'll take Dan with me.
This federally funded task force is known as SAFE, Sexual Assault Felony Enforcement. Their mission is clear.
These are people who've just gotten out of prison or jail, who have a history, who are likely to reoffend. The recidivism rate for sex offenders is the highest of any type of crime.
These random visits are designed to confirm that the sex offender is living where he says he is, and they're obeying the detailed conditions that accompanied their early release from prison.
They can't possess children's toys if their crime was a sex crime involving a child. I've even seen conditions that include can't possess a puppy or kitten. There's certainly a pornography prohibition.
The individuals that we're seeking to monitor today, how serious is the magnitude of their crimes?
There is no bottom level to the depravity that you see in these sex crimes.
What do you mean by that?
They're shocking. We read about them in the paper. You see them everywhere. It's hard to imagine that someone could do something like that to a child.
The case of J.C. Lee Dugard has been a chastening one for the state of California with its 83,000 sex offenders. She was allegedly kidnapped and forced to conceive 2 children by Philip Garrido, a known sex offender. He was visited by a parole officer who never checked the backyard where she was held for almost 2 decades.
It's a tragic case. Could things have been done differently? Absolutely. And I think that's why this team is so important, is to make sure things like that don't happen in the future.
Santa Clara County is not giving any of its offenders such leniency. So, first stop on today's sweep is the home of a 62-year-old former classroom assistant.
First thing, we want to identify our parolee, just detain them while we conduct our search.
When you say detain them, do you cuff them?
We cuff them up, correct.
He served a 5-year prison sentence for multiple crimes against a 10-year-old girl.
Excuse me, sir, we're from ABC, ABC News. I wondered if we could have permission to follow you into your property just to film the parole officers and their work?
Sure.
As he sits down, the SAFE team searches every room of the apartment. He's been on parole for over 2 years, and this is only the 2nd visit to his home.
So what was your original offence?
The original offence was the hug of the student.
How old was the student?
She was about 10 years old.
You were found guilty of a sex crime because you hugged a child that you were working with?
Right. The hug and gifts were involved in this alleged situation. So
why would you give a child gifts, though?
She had low self-esteem, more so than any of the other members in the class, and we developed a friendship.
Is it possible that by providing her with gifts, you were grooming her?
Well, that's sort of the stereotypical view that was taken, and I think that's part of what threw me into a pedophile category.
Sifting through the mountain of clutter is a labor-intensive task.
It makes it a lot tougher for us when we go and search a residence. If there's more stuff that we have to dig through, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we'll discover is not necessarily in plain sight. but we'll have to dig.
Do you find it helpful in a way that your parole officer is checking up on you?
I think it's overkill.
You do?
Yeah, because this is the only alleged crime that I was...
Well, you were found guilty.
Yeah, but then there are people that are judged guilty and are not guilty and go to prison.
Despite his attempt to play down the offences, he must also wear a GPS tracking device to ensure he's never in a location that places him close to children.
He's saying you just hugged a student in his school. So in fact, it's 3 offences.
Mm-hmm. 3 offences. The lewd lascivious with a child under 14, possession of obscene matter depicting child in sexual acts, and annoying and molesting a child.
You were found guilty of possession of pornography, child pornography. You said earlier you only committed 1 offence.
Well, that was the sort of the meat and potatoes of the whole thing.
You can see, though, can't you, how when it all stacks up,
yeah,
it looks like you're a pedophile. You're interested in being intimate with children.
Well, that was the suggestion, yeah.
And that's not true.
No.
In addition to wearing a tracking device, this man's parole contains a specific condition. Since gifts were used to groom a previous victim, he cannot possess soft toys nor any form of children's clothing. And guess what the team has found?
Why do you have this Obi-Wan Kenobi child's costume?
I bought that about a year and a half ago.
Okay, but that's for a child, correct?
No, well,
It says child costume right here.
yeah, it was for a costume party over at my dad's assisted living place.
So you purchased it for an adult?
Yeah, for myself.
Did you know that one of your parole conditions included not purchasing children's clothing?
I didn't see that it was a children's costume.
I'm not asking you about the costume, sir. Were you aware that you were not to purchase children's clothing?
Yes.
Further searching reveals toy stuffed animals in the home, another violation of his parole conditions.
You're going to be taken into custody today for violating special condition of parole stating you shall not possess or have access to children's clothing, toys, or games or other similar material related to children's interests.
Do you think that these individuals could be rehabilitated?
I don't know, but we find that the same people commit the same kinds of crimes.
Not all parolees are easy to find. Although Santa Clara County has a compliance level of 95%, many are registered as transient. Others simply disappear.
He was living here since 2008, and up until January 1st, apparently he left.
Still registered at this address, even though he's been gone
20 days, yeah, 3 weeks.
We learned of a second arrest. A parolee with prohibited pornographic material and something these officers had never seen.
This is the suspect's computer?
Yes.
And what did you find?
There were numerous photos of anime pornography, which is not technically pornography, it's cartoon characters, most of which involved prepubescent males in sexual acts with adult males.
That's a pretty sexually explicit image.
Yeah, and with someone with his history of committing acts similar to that, to children of that age, just by him viewing this, it's pretty obvious the attraction's never going to go away, but where is his mindset right now? And that's while he's under supervision.
What happens when he's outside of supervision?
This wouldn't have been caught.
That parole violator was immediately taken into custody. And as they prepared to take our first violator back to jail, I had to ask him the obvious question.
Was it possible that you were planning to groom a child with that, with those toys?
Not at all.
With that costume?
No, those were just some of the things that we've had over the years.
Were you planning to groom another child?
Oh, no.
Fortunately, in this instance, the SAFE team may have prevented him from sexually abusing another child. And worryingly, he only had 5 months to go before he would be released from all his parole conditions.
Once the supervision's gone, he's on his own. So that's worrisome to me.
Is a sex offence the unforgivable sin? Is it the irredeemable thing in our culture? Because if it is, then basically let's just write these people off.
Yeah. And I don't think so. I have a lot of compassion for them. I don't want them offending again, and if there's steps that we can do in law enforcement to keep them from offending, especially sex crimes, I think that's what we need to do.
Of the 20 visits today, most were found to be complying with their conditions. 2 were not and are now back in jail. The SAFE team closes down for the night, knowing there'll be plenty of work come morning. And the search for Chelsea King will resume in the morning, and we'll continue to monitor that case. And when we come back from crime in the United States,